Welcome to Clearwater County Podcasts, an ongoing conversation about the issues that matter to residents and businesses of Clearwater County. Audio versions are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and other streaming services. Welcome, Eric. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, cheers.
Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Eric Brownrigg. I'm the president of Rocky Mountain House Search and Rescue.
And so I guess we'll start off with, what does Rocky Mountain House Search and Rescue do, or it's often called Rocky SAR?
Yes. Yeah. Rocky SAR, what we do is we are a multidisciplinary team. We have a lot of water trained members. We are one of the only teams in Canada that's accredited with the Mountain Rescue Association in the United States. And we just basically look for folks lost or hurt out in the backcountry and bring them home.
And you're all volunteers?
We're 100% volunteer.
And how many people are in the organization right
Currently,
now?
we have 42 members.
That seems like a lot.
It is. For us, it's a lot. It's nowhere near our highs back in the 90s where we had hundreds of members.
Oh, wow.
But that was in the heyday, the early days where we mostly did almost exclusively searches. And then we needed lots of bodies. But as time has gone on, as the organization has evolved, we had a low of 20 some odd a number of years ago.
Oh.
But that was just, with COVID and stuff, folks burning out.
That would keep you busy then.
It kept us busy. But otherwise, yeah, we've got 42 highly trained members.
And unfortunately, you're well experienced.
Very experienced, yes.
Lot of call outs where, we're blessed with a lot of beauty, but with the beauty of our area comes the wilderness, the water, the mountains, and valleys.
Yes.
Which is where I know you guys end up doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
So as an organization, what does it take to train to become a member?
So every member, and we actually are doing a recruitment, so this is kind of timely as well. But to be a member of Rocky SAR, you need to be a member, live in Clearwater County, be a permanent resident here, and then we put you through a what we call Search and Rescue Basics course, which is about a 2-week long course. It just depends on timing, but it's just a course that introduces you to the basics of searching for individuals, how to do the various types of searches, because there isn't just go look for someone. There's your type 1 hasty search all the way down to your type 4 grid searches where you're on your hands and knees looking for evidence and stuff like that. And then there's some wilderness survival in there and some first aid. Every other person should have ICS 100 and standard first aid as well.
Okay. And there was a documentary just a few years ago that came out. And it featured Rocky SAR fairly prominently.
Yes, Mountain 911.
Some of those rescues looked pretty crazy. Like, people get stuck or lost or injured in some pretty risky areas.
They do, and it's mostly no fault of their own. It's just whatever was happening at the time. They may have missed a turn, slipped on some ice. The call that you're referring to there on Mountain 911, I was on that one. And by my understanding is the individual just hit a patch of ice while he was quadding out in the woods and ran into some trees. So it's just accidents happen. And
we're in a remote area.
We are.
So often, how long does it maybe take for a response?
So it depends on where you are, how close you are towards Rocky Mountain House. If you're further out west, it'll take some time for us to get there. And it depends on the nature of the incident and access.
Okay.
If we're able to get in with a helicopter, it can be anywhere up, as quick as an hour. Generally speaking, though, for us to get mobile, to get going, if we know we're going to have to take quads into the backcountry or what have you, it could take anywhere between 2 and 3 hours for us to get to the person.
Which is why it's so important that people are actually prepared and have gear that's appropriate with them.
That's correct.
So this past year, unfortunately, we have quite a few incidents every year. We have a lot of visitors that come out and enjoy this area. What are some of the more common incidents we've had this past year?
Some of it is just a lack of awareness of where they are. There's a lot of very common trails where places like Siffler Falls, it's a well-traveled trail. It's easy to get to. We don't really have incidents there. If we do, it's generally slips, trips, and falls.
Okay.
But even then, it takes us a bit to get somebody out if they've broken an ankle or what have you. But if we have incidents where a person just takes a wrong turn and then they're out there. And what we want to let folks know is call us, but also, like you say, be prepared. So we want folks to carry, enough what we call a 24-hour pack, so you can survive yourself for 24 hours in the backcountry.
Because if you've tripped, fallen, it gets dark, it gets cold, and you can get hungry and thirsty at the same time. And search and rescue going out in the dark on some of those trails is really not very possible. Like, you might have to wait till morning.
It depends on the nature of it and where it is.
Okay.
If it's an extremely remote access where we're looking probably longer than an 8-hour hike in or a 4-hour hike in, we'll probably wait till morning. But that's also based on the information that we get. But if we can get to somebody within a few hours, we'll definitely try and get there no matter the time of day.
Okay.
Whether it's 2:00 in the morning or 2:00 in the afternoon, we'll try and get it.
But if I guess I come back to the preparedness thing. Mm-hmm. If somebody's able to take even one of those emergency blankets and certainly have a jacket, because the weather changes here very quickly.
It does.
And in July, you can leave on a hike and it's plus 20 something, but by evening you could be encountering snow or at least wind and squalls, right? So
that's correct.
Making for an awfully cold night if you have to sit out there by yourself.
That's true. Yeah, having just layers is great, no matter what time of year. Right now, we've got wonderful quasi-winter temperatures, we'll say, and folks will head out, light jackets and light pants, not really realizing if they do get stuck. The nights do get down minus 20 even right now. So having a good layering system is phenomenal.
And we have a lot of wind in our valleys.
Oh,
too.
it blows.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And we see, when I'm out there with my kids, I see people trying hikes with flip-flops or Crocs. Not trying to name a brand name, but you want to gear footwear in particular that you're going to be able to both hike up and down. People forget sometimes you have to come down too.
Yeah. For our neck of the wood, we'd always recommend just a good sturdy boot. There's a lot of new trail runner style shoes out there that they're okay for some of our easier trails, but you got ones, there's places, Vision Quest Coliseum Trail as well. A good sturdy hiker will definitely help you out.
Those are some of our most popular hikes.
They are.
And we do see a lot of people out there, and I hope most people are wearing appropriate gear and doing that whole appropriate process of letting people know where they're going, what time they should be back, and so on.
Generally speaking, I think so. But in my experience, it's the folks that do run into trouble are the ones that haven't done those plans. It's a family that does get concerned back home, wherever they're from. It could be Rocky, it could be Calgary, it could be Red Deer. And then we get called generally around the supper time when somebody doesn't show up for food.
Right. So people running into trouble, sprained ankles, twisted knees, just too tired.
Has happened, yes.
Okay.
It's some on our easier trails, the more common injuries are just ankle injuries or knee injuries. But we have had a few instances where individuals just are unprepared for the length of the trail. They didn't realize how far back it went. And they just kept going and going until they reached the point of exhaustion and haven't even reached the end of the trail yet.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of all the things to ask here because, we did this a couple of years ago. When COVID started, our area was basically inundated with a lot of people who'd never been out here. And in the process, ranging from environment things, people were burning stuff they probably shouldn't, or leaving food out that they shouldn't. Which has impacts. But really, from Rocky Search and Rescue's point of view, like that year, there were a lot of rescues on Abraham Lake in the summer.
We did. What we saw is Abraham Lake. It's a bit of a misnomer, in my opinion. It should be really Abraham Reservoir more than anything, because it is a reservoir for the Bighorn Dam that's at the other end there. And it's deceiving because in the mornings it'll be generally calm. I don't want to paint it with a single brush and say it's that, but it'll be calm 1 minute. 5 minutes later, the wind will start picking up. 10 minutes later, and you'll be in a full gale. And there's a rock cut on Highway 11. It's called Windy Point for a reason. And there's a wonderful trail there too. It's quite challenging. But if you look at the trees, you'll see all the branches are on one side.
They're bent over.
Yeah. So it's It does. The wind on Abraham is unpredictable at the best of times, and we often get calls where it's folks just get blown across the lake. If they do fall in, it's a glacier-fed lake. It's a high mountain lake, and it's fairly consistently cold all year round.
At best, +5 is what I've heard.
At best, +5. So that does, hypothermia can kick in on a 35-degree day in the summer, and it can kick in a matter of minutes. And you start losing that motor function. If you're sitting in that lake, it's not fun. And if it's windy, your family on the other shore might not even be able to call. Right. Or they might not even see that you've fallen in the lake because of wind. The waves do get pretty big out there, quite surprisingly. So yeah, it does catch a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, so we encourage. I mean, there are some really good guides that know the lake very well, and they know the conditions, and they're trained around those things. And I encourage people. Choose the guides.
Yes.
Do those adventures with the guides who know what they're doing. And they've got the communication gear and safety gear and training as well. We're pretty blessed. We actually have quite a few companies that are able to do that kind of work out there. Mm-hmm. Take advantage of the beauty that is Abraham Lake, but being aware of the risks at the same time.
And we at Rocky SAR, we also promote, like, if you are going on the lake without a guide, as you had mentioned, head out on the lake with all of your safety gear. So if you have a paddle board, it is required to have a life jacket on and to be tethered to the board. And if you're not wearing that life jacket, it has to be on the board with a whistle and with a light and with a buoyant heating line. So there's lots of safety gear. People
Although
just
realistically,
it, so
having the life jacket on the board but not on yourself doesn't serve a very good purpose.
No, it's I know through my other work, there have been several close calls this summer of near drownings with paddleboarders. Who weren't wearing their safety equipment. So we do ask anybody who's on any kind of water body, just wear that safety gear. It looks cooler when you do.
Right. So we've talked a bit about hiking, certainly paddle boards and the Abraham Lake specifically. But we have a lot of other lakes and rivers and quadding activity. Now, I know unfortunately we get a number of accidents via quadding throughout the year. What are a couple of the most common things that happen while people are quadding?
Most common things with off-highway vehicles would be more just rollovers. So it's, I guess the easiest way to say it, just crush injuries.
Okay.
So the machine will roll back over on top of somebody. And those ones tend to be pretty traumatic. But with the helmet rules that are in place now, a lot of people are following those. And we just ask the guys continue to do it. And it's more just, I wouldn't say it's a lack of experience. It's just, as you're proceeding down the trail, you might not see that one rut or something that's in the shadow, and that little shadow catches you, causes you to go over the handlebars or causes you to slip down the slope a little bit. Misjudging the thickness of the ice sometimes, if it's towards the hunting season, and going through the ice and getting into the water in the winter time is not fun. But if you're prepared and you're able to make a fire, big fire, it'll help us find you. But most injuries are pretty severe when it comes to an OHV. Okay. And generally speaking, we do get stars come out and they'll have to take that person to hospital.
And we've also had a few rescues on North Saskatchewan River over the years. I think what I've heard most of the times, usually people are lost. They don't realize that by the time mid-August rolls around, that sun is setting at closer to 8 o'clock, 8:30, and once it does, you're out in the middle of nowhere and it gets dark awfully fast.
It does, yeah. It's the North Saskatchewan in our neck of the woods changes every year. And if you talk to anybody who's familiar with the river, they know that there may be a bend here, a bend there that's got a name, Devil's Elbow or something with some known rapids. But you never know where the new tree roots are going to be that have come out over the course of the spring or the winter. You never know where the next, shallow bit's going to be. The river may have changed over time, so it could cause people to get stuck.
Plus, the water fluctuates a little bit with what the dam releases.
Yeah, 100%.
Again, I go back to, we've got some excellent guides who know what they're doing.
Yes, very much.
Please take advantage of their expertise and use them while out rafting or canoeing or kayaking on the rivers in our area as well. Is there anything in particular that you would like, our viewers, our visitors, to be aware of?
We've mentioned it's changing weather conditions. It's never the same. There is a thing, I grew up here, and there's a thing of, wait 5 minutes and you'll have some new weather. It's not exactly true, but it's just something to prepare for. So be prepared for changing conditions all year round. And if you do end up in trouble, call us immediately. If you have an inReach or a spot device, use that. Call for help immediately. As soon as you know you're in a pickle, don't wait. And then when it's dark, call for help.
Right.
Call for help as soon as you can, because it just gets us going that much faster, and it helps us get to you quicker.
Better that you guys get an hour closer to them and then have it canceled.
Yes, 100%.
Than an hour late.
Yeah.
And have to deal with that.
Yeah, I'd much rather stand the team down than to have to search for somebody who's lost and we have a vague GPS coordinate or something that we're going off of.
And as for weather, I mean, the truth is we can get snow in any month of the year here.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be up at landslide lake levels. It can be right at Preacher's Point. It can be closer to Rocky. Yeah. Yahatinda, I know some Julys.
Yes.
Get a bit of a surprise for all those campers down there.
Yeah.
The weather between the wind and intense heat and then all of a sudden cold, like it can really change quickly.
Yeah, it can change quickly. And then too, to add to that, the smoke from fires and whatnot. This year was a bit of a challenge. A number of years ago, 2018 or 19, I believe, was a challenge as well. And if it's thick smoke, we can't fly in. So we have to hike in. And that's a challenge for us in that we need more people. Because anytime you walk in, you send more. And so it's just things to be aware of. Is just pay attention to the weather around you and look at the forecasts ahead of time. There's several good websites out there. Weather Network is merely one, so is Environment Canada. But there are several other websites you can check out for forecasting and what have you.
And for those that they're interested in joining you and learning some of these skills, I know I've seen some of the pictures of the training that you guys do. I had the good luck to be out when you were doing helicopter training a couple of years ago and be able to record some of that. It looks pretty exciting. Who do they reach out to, or how do they get a hold of you guys?
To get a hold of us right now, if you want to apply to Rocky SAR, it's membership at rockysar.com. And you can just go to our website, rockysar.com. It's through Clearwater County's page. And just look for us, and you can reach out through that, or the information, info at rockysar.com is the other email you can use, and somebody will be in touch with you, and we'll see what happens. And there's no guarantee on all the training. Everybody loves the helicopter stuff. It's really cool. There's no denying that. What we try to do is get more experienced members, get them through some of the other training, and our new members, just like any other organization, just work your way up, and maybe you'll be on our board one day or something. Yeah.
Well, I've seen some of the ropes stuff that you guys do, and deep crevice work and so on, and it looks pretty amazing. Sometimes the training, I think, can be pretty fun. Of course, when you have to use it, not so much, but can be pretty challenging for somebody if they want.
It is very challenging, and it's it's when we do practice, we practice as if it's a real situation, and that way, when it does happen, it's practice makes perfect, right? And we try as best we can, and we apply it, and hopefully have a good outcome from it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you for your time, Jerry.